What's up YouTube? Pluto here, back with another build video for Space Marines 2. I've been really enjoying this game a lot. I have maxed my second class, the Assault, and that's the one we'll be taking our dive into today. This is considered by most of the community as the worst class in the game, and to some degree, they're not wrong. This class takes the longest in terms of leveling for it to reach its power fantasy, and as soon as you go up higher in difficulty, that power fantasy is ripped away. I have some thoughts and ideas on how this class could be improved, but we'll discuss that at the end. To start off, Assault's unique perk is the jump pack. This is basically a jetpack. What this does is it will propel you in the air, allowing you to slam back down to the ground with devastating effect. His unique starting perk increases your perfect dodge window. I kind of have a problem with this because sometimes the dodges don't seem to have enough iframes, but this is what the class seems to want you to do. Perfect dodge in everything, and gun striking, especially with the max 2 perks, playing very heavily into this. Commitment, fully recharging your jump pack if you used a perfect dodge, while aerial grace boosts your damage by 25% if you land that perfect dodge. But on difficulties like Ruthless or higher, with how ad dense it can be, makes it hard to pull off the reward for this, which is a gun strike. And the devs have stated they want to make this feature risk reward, so no iframes will be added to it. Kind of ruins this for me, as you can lose more armor than you get back, especially if there are ranged enemies around. There are some ways to play around this, but we'll get more into that in the breakdown portion. With that being said, we'll build into Assault's ground pound. So how do we build for the ground pound? With perks like Diligence that give us a 25% extra damage for a fully charged ground pound. Though this does take 25% more time to fully charge, can be a drawback if there are a lot of ranged enemies around. But if it's mostly melee, this can be beneficial. So go for a full charge depending on the situation. And then we'll pick up Zealous Blow for a 10% charge per ground pound kill towards your next jump pack. This one perk, given the right ad dense environment, can recycle your charge over and over. This column is pretty flexible, with Hammer of Wrath helping with follow-up swings after a ground pound, and Smiting Angels being a solid first perk choice. My personal favorite is Precision Strike, giving us a hefty 100% more damage on our ground pounds, but you do lose out on 50% of the radius. It's already kind of big anyways. What this perk really does is it helps a lot at taking down Majoris or higher level enemies. His team perks are pretty solid. The first one you will unlock is Squad Cohesion. This will make all squad members, including yourselves, abilities recharge 10% faster. This is the personal one I ran all the way until I unlocked Proven Efficiency. This is my personal pick for best in slot here. It gives 50% more gun strike damage, which makes it a lot easier to take out Majoris and extremist level enemies, especially with all of the ways you can get gun strikes to proc. I'll show you what I mean in the breakdown portion. Strategic Strike is not a bad choice, but if you can proc a lot of gun strikes on the boss and other mobs throughout the operation, just by sheer numbers alone, it gets beat out by Proven Efficiency. Now on to our core perks. All are pretty good here, but nothing super crazy, except for this one right here, Armor Reinforcement. This makes all gun strikes, whether it kills the target or not, restore one segment of armor. What this allows you to do is get multiple segments of armor back on the same Majoris or extremist level enemy, really boosting your survivability. And what for me makes this class playable on Ruthless and higher difficulties. Our next two top picks here are Consecutive Execution. Killing 15 enemies will fully restore an ability charge. This really helps play into the fantasy of jumping up in the air and slamming down as many times as possible. Followed by Knowledge of the Enemy for an extra 15% damage versus Majoris or extremist level enemies. And then we have our signature perks, which really aren't that great. One reloads your equipped weapon anytime you use your jump pack, and the other one just damages enemies in the takeoff area. It's not enough damage to really make an impact. And then you have the one that the devs seem to really want you to pick because it's the only one that has crazy power potential, but the skill ceiling to reach that potential is also very high. Before we leave the Assault's perks, let's talk about a combo I feel is really strong and probably what the devs were going for with this class. Commitment, Aerial's Grace, Proven Efficiency, Auxiliary Arsenal, and Armor Reinforcement. With this, you can theoretically get unlimited jump pack dashes that give you gun strikes with 90% more damage, all while getting your armor back for each shot. This is what I feel like the devs want the Assault class to play like at max level. Let's talk about weapons. Like Bulwark, you only get a secondary and a melee. For secondaries, we have two options, the Bolt Pistol and the Heavy Bolt Pistol. Both are solid options, but for our build, the Heavy Bolt fits best. For our variation, we picked the Ophelian's Liberation Alpha simply because it has a higher ammo reserve and bigger mag capacity. For perks, like before, we are kind of locked to a row once you start down it, so we look at the end for perks we may want. For me, the perk I want is Adamant Hunter for 25% extra headshot damage when below 30% health, which in this game is a lot of the time. With that being said, we were forced down this top row, but you just with that being said, we were forced down this top row, but you do get some pretty good choices here, like 2 perpetual precision perks, giving you 20% reduced reduction in spread, an elite precision perk, which after killing an Majoris or higher level enemy with a melee weapon will further reduce your spread by 25% for 5 seconds. Then we pick up Perpetual Penetration, which allows our shot to penetrate through targets. This includes our Gunstrike shots as well. And then we'll get Gunstrike Reload, which will reload your current weapon after a Gunstrike. This allows you to have a full topped off mag at all times. And then you get 2 Headhunter perks here, which for 20% headshot damage, which ties directly into your Gunstrikes. And then we get the one that we wanted, Adamant Hunter. While below 30% health, we get 25% more damage. This leaves us 2 perks left as flex perks to choose what we want. What I like to go with here is Honed Precision. When firing from the hip, you get a 25% decrease in your spread, which is really nice, which allows you to hit more hipfire headshots. And then the last one I pick here is Divine Might for an extra 10% increase in damage. All this is stacking the heavy bolter to become a headshot gunstrike monster. Also, gunstrikes count as headshots, so any headshot boost will also be applied to our gunstrike. Meaning if all of our cards align, we could end up with 145% extra damage on our gunstrike. But you would have to jump pack perfect dodge, all while being under 30% health. Certainly some hoops to jump through, but the skill ceiling for damage is very high. I think the most you could probably get out of this is 330% extra damage from a fully maxed out tactical class, boosting your damage by 175% from a scan, and a sniper giving you an extra 10% headshot damage. For melee, we have 3 options. The Thunderhammer, in my opinion, this is the main draw of the class and what brought me to it. The good old Chainsword and the Power Fist. If I had to rank them, it would probably be like this: Power Fist first, Chainsword second, then the Thunderhammer. It's kind of crazy to put the Thunderhammer last, but this is simply because the Thunderhammer does not one-shot Minoris level enemies. This is my main real problem with the Thunderhammer. It feels a little weak for how slow it is. If it could one-shot Minoris level enemies, I would probably move it up to number 1, because for me it is the most fun to use, followed by the Power Fist. So we will go over those 2 first and save the Chainsword for the tactical class, because that's the only melee that it gets. The Thunderhammer's moveset is pretty simple. Light attacks, which you will mainly only use to set up for a ground slam, as this is your only really reliable way to get back contested HP with the hammer. While Pommel Smash will be your poke damage and how you set up most of your gun strikes. Aftershock takes too long to fully charge up to ever take advantage of it really, and barely charged one doesn't do much more damage than a ground slam. For what variation we go with, we picked the Aphelions Liberation beta for the fencing defensive style, giving us bigger parry windows, rewarding us with more easier gun strikes. Same as before, we will look to the end and see if there's any perk that we might like. Nothing seems to stand out here, so that means we can freely start from either row. With that being said, we'll pick Armored Strength for the extra 5% melee damage over Perpetual Strength, seeing as our class perk, Armored Reinforcement, will keep us topped off with an armor segment per gun strike. Next, we're forced to take Calm Before the Storm, which we really won't be able to take advantage of because we won't be using Aftershock very much. Our next choice is made for us, Perpetual Strength, giving us 5% more melee damage. Bringing us to our first choice, pick up Extremist Slayer for an extra 15% damage versus Extremist level enemies. Followed by Reclamation, our ground slams restore with 100% more contested HP. Or pick up Shattering Impact, ground slams have a 50% increased area of effect. Followed by Seismic Chain, where you gain an additional ground slam after your first one. I chose the Reclamation route for the ability to restore contested HP with my ground slams. And then we are forced into Armored Strength, giving us an extra 10% melee damage. Then I pick up Hard Target for a 15% reduction in range damage while performing light attacks. Then we pick up both Perpetual Strengths for 10% extra melee damage, leaving us with a flex point because your first relic point revolves around Aftershock and we won't really be using that. So pick either Chaos Slayer or Tyranid Slayer based on your enemy type. The Power Fist moveset, on the other hand, is a bit more complex compared to the hammer, offering you a few different variation and combos you can do. For the most part though, we will only be using the Cannon Punch, as this is our main poke damage, and the main way we set up our gun strikes, with a few light combos thrown in here and there, occasionally using thrust jab, but our perk choice will turn this into an attack that slams the ground, damaging the surrounding area. The Power Fist seems to fit the class best, while having the same damage as the hammer, while having the highest speed, allowing you to get in and out, picking up those gun strikes. As for what variation I pick, we're looking for which one has the fencing, defensive stat, and the beta has that, so we go with that one. Jumping over to the perks, just like before, we have to look to the end and see if there's a perk that we would like to pick up, as this will determine what row we go down. Also keep in mind there's not enough points here to have a flex, so you kind of have to look at each row as a total. This could obviously change if they ever add more points down the line. For now though, our choices are built for a 30% debuff for 4 seconds that we can reproc every 10 seconds with Reeling Blow, or 50% damage boost on our Cannon Punch with heavy armament, which is kind of your main source of damage at times. This is the one I went for because I always prefer more damage. This row is pretty much all good, aside from locking you into Tyranid Slayer. I prefer when they give you the free ability to switch this out with Chaos Slayer, depending on the enemy type, and Rally being kind of hard to pull off, as you have to be less than 30% health and land a Back Fist 2 or a Thrust Jab 2. In the heat of things, this can be kind of tough to do, and only getting one armor segment back doesn't really feel rewarding enough. Other than that, you get some pretty solid perks here, like a 20% damage buff against Minoris level enemies with Minoris Slayer, and 2 perpetual strength perks for a total of 10% more damage, a 30% reduction in preparation time for heavy attacks with heavy preparation. Concussive impact makes it easier to land those Back Fist 2 or Thruster Jab 2s, while Ground Shake changes Thrust Jab into a Ground Smash attack. All in all, a pretty solid lineup. I didn't do this in our last video, but moving forward, I would like to add a section where I break down how to play the class and give some tips on things I've learned while playing. And if you have any tips that I missed, feel free to go ahead and leave them in the comments and I'll pin them. First, we will cover gun strikes. How can you proc a gun strike? By perfectly dodging, or with a parry, or a heavy attack. This also includes your sprinting attack or invading attacks. And when you master the class, the jump pack. Once a gun strike has been procced, how can we safely execute it? Most of the time, simply by dashing the opposite direction from the enemy. I like to combine a pommel smash or a cannon punch to set up a gun strike and then quickly dash away to execute it. The armor you get back from gun strikes can be enough to keep you alive in sticky situations, and can even leave some enemies in an executable state, allowing you to take advantage of those invincibility frames if you need it to avoid damage. This leads us into what can we do to increase our survivability. Always be on the lookout for things that offer invincibility frames, such as execution or blue indicator parries from Minoris level enemies. Or sometimes, multiple actions can be done at once, such as using a parry to block an attack while performing a gun strike, negating any damage you would have taken. Also try your best to keep an eye on the outer edge of your screen for an orange or blue indicator. This will tell you what type of attack an enemy off screen is getting ready to do. For Tyranids, focus on the warriors, as killing them will kill almost all the minor level enemies around them, and our build is set up for a lot of single target damage. While fighting chaos, take advantage of as many gun strikes as you can, and don't try to outright trade damage with them, you will lose. Lastly, I'd like to talk about the jump pack. This can be used to traverse the map, even skipping some parts of it altogether entirely. I found a few spots myself, but I'm sure I've missed some. So if you find any, we have a Space Marines 2 section in our Discord. Feel free to drop by and share it in there. If you made it this far, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you for your support. And I am live over on Twitch most days. Feel free to drop by and ask any questions. That link will also be in the description. Again, thank you for supporting. I'm still really new to content creation, so any feedback is greatly appreciated. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.
Bombardment from orbit risks collateral damage, so we need a more targeted approach. Commandeer a Nova Cannon implosive warhead from the Navy supplies in the Astra Militarum depot and deliver the payload by rail. We shall collapse the superstructure from below.
1,000,000 tons of plastic shall rain down on their wretched
Environmental
carriers.
conditions deteriorate, as is the way of things.
The battle disturbs Avarax's arid landscape. Dust squalls can arise with little warning. If conditions obscure the path, look for the flashing guideposts.
Resupply there.
Atmospheric conditions have returned to normal. Advance while it is clear.
tries my patience.
Avenging angel at your disposal.
Our will remains untarnished, unblemished, unbroken. Purification!
Atmospheric conditions have returned to normal.
Jump pack refueled.
Wrath shall reign!
Releasing frag grenade.
There goes our range advantage.
Beautiful. Fan out, brothers. It will try to enthrall us. No storm will delay our vengeance. I am airborne ready.
I shall repay this deed. Changing
Strategic marked Xenos combatant. Taking cover is advisable, but unnecessary.
The Apothecarian revives.
Atmospheric conditions have returned to normal.
The Xenos infestation is stemmed now. Reloading magazine.
Updating mission log to reflect continuous atmospheric irritation.
Commencing reload.
Atmospheric conditions have returned to normal.
Take flight and let terror fall. Reloading.
Sightlines diminished.
Commencing reload. Jump pack refueled.
Atmospheric conditions have returned to normal.
The Imperium's hammer rises to strike. It is not a test of metal, but of patience. Avenging angel at your disposal. Be as an angel of death.
No storm will delay our vengeance.
Mending flesh! Weapon schematics are in our hands.
These storms will strip our colors right down to the ceramite. Feels downright roomy after all that smothering dust.
Ordnance administered!
I am not
Swapping magazine!
Inserting fresh magazine. Lieutenant, we have arrived at the ammo dump.
Activate the quartermaster's console and wait for machine spirit. Instructed to load the implosive warhead onto the train and assist it when necessary.
Another alien forged to the Imperium's keen blade. I shall suffer your poor aim for only so long, brother. Cleaning armaments.
Messiah's blessings, Quartermaster. Awaiting your instructions.
Your task is to affix a Nova Cannon implosive warhead to that train. Understood?
Acknowledge. Commencing transfer protocols. Attention. Services not found. Authorities required to complete the transfer.
That pitiful Xenos was but an abhorrent blunt. My war gear is satisfied.
Alert.
Jump pack re-
Sector C in need of operator assistance. Notify destination facility of shipment terminations for communications.
Conduct the ritual of that console!
The enemy summons support.
I have this one.
Avenging angel at your disposal. Xenos' hunger is insatiable, but the Imperium is indomitable.
Heed the machine spirit's command, brothers!
I am airborne ready.
At the console.
Advanced condition met. The Omnicide provides.
I am the righteous storm.
magazine.
Jump pack refueled.
Munitions prepared for transit, Quartermaster. Provide your command authorization to dispatch payload to the supply queue.
The bindings have been loosened. I thank this machine's spirit.
Good. Escort the payload to the train.
Depot blueprints reveal a lift that should take us to the station. Your target acquisition to hit ratio is surprisingly high, Straven, considering it looks like you fire wantonly into a horde.
I focus on efficiency and ammunition conservation. That is all.
I see. No response to my subtle jest.
No. I appreciate the way you...
Curate your targets.
The world this Xenos sought to consume now consumes its carcass. I am airborne ready. Adjusting all specs for close proximity.
Rearming.
Atmospheric conditions have returned to normal. Wrath shall reign. Score my armor with careless fire.
Servitors remind
Updating
me
mission
that I am
log to
blessed when I
reflect
walk as
continuous
I am,
atmospheric
and not as
irritation.
they do. We can cross here. The dust storm has settled.
I pray these sands are cleansing the chitin from those Xenos. Replenishing firepower.
All up on my position.
Ready for next encounter.
Terminal looks empty.
The Imperium's
Obstruction detected. Removal is required to commence.
acknowledged.
Path is clear of detritus.
operator. Not found. Resuming search.
Xenos hunger is insatiable, but the Imperium is indomitable. Avenging angel at your disposal. I am the righteous storm descendant.
Seeking operator. Not found. Resuming search.
Tyrannies have no mind for tactics.
Derailment on track 6. Request servitors to clear wreckage.
Replenishing firepower. I am airborne ready.
Departmental Minotauric Ordnance Transfer 3639 loading complete. Manifest updated.
Target Xenos bioform. Reloading. End that one's pitiful life before it tries for reinforcements are here. Jump pack refuel. My Primarch's gene seed is strong. Be as an angel of death. Another alien falls to the Imperium's keen blade.
Our coordination is off. Inefficient.
How so?
Your fire would be most effective after my bombardments.
If you seek someone to pick up after you, I suggest you call for a chapter serf. Lieutenant, payload is delivered.
Good. Deploying.
Second wave headed toward us.
The Emperor sees Lord Impious egg. That pitiful Xenos was but an abhorrent blight.
Dispatching engine. Ensure all servitors are away from the rails. Rail shift completed. Schedule conflicts detected. Changes suspected until reprocessing is complete.
Avenging angel at your disposal.
Stand by engine ready for departure.
The Xenos infestation is launching one.
Engine power depleted. Initiating charging cycle. Departmental Minotauric entities will be assessed.
Codex accounts for minor setbacks.
Talassa, I have multiple swarms moving to your location. You have their attention. Deal with them swiftly. We will not get another shot at this.
Let us ambush the Tyranids on those
Target
trailers.
Xenos bioform.
Our engine will make a fine cloud.
irritating proposition. There are engines in service that may be routed along the parallel tracks. Route changes may be made by a dispatcher at the track's control terminal.
Massacre all loathsome abominations!
Train inbound. Please clear the tracks. Preparing standby engine for departure. Dispatchers, please stand by. Dispatchers may resume normal operations. Motive power charged to 25%.
The armory provides.
Engine charged to 50%.
Purge the alien scourge.
Fault in charging system detected. Engine seer requested to perform rites of restoration.
Link your armor to the Mechanicus device. You will need to keep close proximity
Nothing
to the
shall
charging
please me
station
more.
until the reset is complete.
Perform the rites of restoration at the afflicted charging station's machine interface, and the circuits will be reset. If the problem persists, seek a qualified engine seer for holy maintenance.
Changing magazine.
The Imperium's hammer rises to strike. I shall suffer your poor aim for only so long.
Elite level Xenos. Pacify.
Attempt within proximity. Logging on.
Engine charged to 75%.
Dispatcher. The engine is charged and prepared for departure.
Deploy immediately.
Underway. Halo, one line.
Active camouflage charged.
Commencing reload.
The Codex approves our...
Detonation in 5. Brace for shockwave.